I could assume in the positions that you're in is even more difficult for the people that is their identity, right? Like whether it's a CEO, a founder that you're working with, or it's a team and it's a specific person that you're working with, that this is my career, this is who I am. It's probably difficult to detach themselves, especially when that's their entire life to that point. And
100%.
the first rule of
100%.
mastery is to work from the inside out, right? And so working from the inside out, I think a lot of people, and I think you'd agree on this as well, is that the most growth in life is invisible. It's like the stuff that you don't see. And it's not the stuff in the external that we can measure, because that's usually the stuff that's performance based. So how do we get to the point where we stop measuring ourselves based on performance and move more towards that? Because I feel a lot of people get to the end of their day with a full day, but not a fulfilled day. And there's a big difference there.
Yeah, amen. How do we do it? The unfortunate way, that is the most common way, is to feel the pain associated with any of the suffering that comes from, that comes in life. I won't even tie it back to performance-based identity, but when we feel pain, that is the broth for change.
Mhm.
And when we numb ourselves, social media, we numb ourselves with TV or surface conversations, and there's a place for all of that. But when we're numbing ourselves with alcohol, drugs, pornography, whatever it might be, that in and of itself keeps us on our surface, and it removes us from feeling pain. And when you get down to it and you feel some suffering and pain, you say, well, I don't want this anymore. There's got to be a better way. And you kind of come back and open your eyes and you're like, wait, hold on. What are those best practices? Feeling pain. And when you get down to it and you feel some suffering and pain, you say, well, I don't want this anymore. There's got to be a better way. And you kind of come back and open your eyes and you're like, wait, hold on. What are those best practices? What are people that live the fulfilled life? How do they work from the inside out? And that's all the study of sports psychology is it's studying how the extraordinaries use their mind and the practices and best habits for them to be their very best. And the cool thing about this, James, is we can train our mind.
Right.
And that is something that is relatively new in the world of psychology, like mental skills training. Athletes have been doing it for a long time, 50, 60 years. And the rest of us are just catching up with some of those best practices. When I see one of the world's best, of course, they're physically talented, and likely their genetic physical traits have been well matched with their environment. However, that's not always the case. There are people in the NFL that are my size, 5'10", and they are extraordinary at what they do.
Mm-hmm.
And it's because they have worked so hard to train their mind, to train their craft, and to train their body. The best in the world train all three. So when I see somebody that's extraordinary, I don't see just a physical freak. I don't see somebody that is born that way. They have all put in real work. Not everybody has trained their mind, but on the world stage, most of them have been very disciplined with the way that they think.
Mm-hmm.
They back themselves. They speak to themselves in ways to help give them a chance when the competition is heavy. And some are very disciplined and structured with it, and some are a little bit looser. So we study the best in the world to say, how do you do it? And from a psychological perspective, those best practices are available to all of us.
One thing that I find fascinating about what you do is that I think a lot of people would assume that as a sports psychologist, you kind of just go in and you give the people the advice that they need to get back to where they are. What I think the truth of this, and I would love your perspective on it, is that you help the best get back to their best because they've already been at their best, right? And so you kind of ask them the questions and get them back to where they want to be. So what are some of those questions that you ask people to kind of get them back to the point where they are helping themselves more than they're hurting themselves, whether that's mental or physical or whatever that comes
Yeah,
to?
it's really cool. It's a great insight. Again, I'm spending much more time now translating those best practices out from sport, outside of sport. into business and into other environments.
Mm.
So the questions that I tend to ask people is, who are you? It's one of the foundational big questions in life.
Yeah.
What is your purpose? And most people do not have clarity on either of those. They're really big.
Yeah.
And the other one is, what is your guiding philosophy? In other words, is there a sentence or a set of words that guide your thoughts, words, and actions? And most people kind of look blank, like I don't know. And all of that is a bit of a framework to help have some sturdiness to how you go into heavy environments or consequential environments or performance-based or pressure-packed environments, is to have some sort of framework and sturdiness. So you're not just always making it up as you go, that you're like, listen, my philosophy is, and that's what guides my thoughts, words, and actions. My purpose is, and that's why I'm committed to doing this work, because it's bigger than me.
Mm-hmm.
And and at my center, this is who I am, and I'm just trying to figure it out day to day. And then I'll ask them, and sometimes we just need to ask those questions and put a pin in them because they're kind of too big. And there's no secret path to any of this. There are no 7 steps. There's no tricks. There's no hacks. There's no secrets here. You can answer those questions on your own by getting a pen and paper out, having a conversation with somebody else, or meditating. Those are the 3 best practices for insight. You can do that work by yourself, or in one of those three ways. But when you do it with somebody who has wisdom and they've been down the path many of times before you, it just kind of speeds up the process. So I would recommend, that's why I recommend going and talking to somebody like a sports psychologist or person with wisdom. It's so powerful to do it. Okay, that being said, sometimes we pin those, and then I'll ask questions such as, tell me what it's like when you're at your best.
Mm.
What is that like? Bring me into it. Let me understand it. And then I'll ask, after I really understand the fabric of it, I'll say, what's it like when you're really struggling? And then we get the compare contrast opportunity to say, well, okay, so tell me what the difference is. And they lay it out and say, right, what are the skills that you use to be your very best? And if they don't know, they'll ask me to help them out there a little bit. And then like self-talk, breathing, mental imagery, deep focus, having great awareness, being psychologically agile, clear goals, connected to their teammates. All of those can be built. And so then we just go to the woodshed and we start building great self-talk, great breathing practices, great imagery practice, being a great teammate, fill in the blanks. And that's kind of the nuts and bolts of it.